Wait a minute. There we go. So as I was saying, guys, tomorrow we're gonna start with the test. And as I said, those of you who already had this classes with me before know the format, and those who don't, I will tell you now. The point is that in the listening part, which is the part that we have first, we make groups of 3 people. So in groups of 3 people, you will present the exam, although of course the grade is fully individual. So it's like each one of you would obtain a different grade based on your performance. You know that we follow the IELTS format. The thing is that we don't do the whole exam, just a couple of sections of it, but it's the IELTS format. So it's 3 people together, and then I make some questions to all of you. Uh, some of those questions are just, direct questions. There are some others in which you have to analyze images or talk about photographies or graphs, that kind of thing. And by the end, there is a question in which I ask you to have a short discussion among yourselves. So I would only listen to you talking about any sort of topic that I would propose. So that's pretty much how it works. And I normally take around 15 minutes with each one of these groups, which means that I mean, I normally, what I do is to divide the class. So I make sure that we have enough time to cover, all the groups. So that means that's on tomorrow we're gonna have 7 groups out of those 10. So I will let you know in a moment exactly the names of those people. So tomorrow we're gonna start with 7 groups out of those 10. And then on Friday, we're gonna start with the speaking test with the missing 3 groups. And then by the end of that, we are going to have the other section of the test all together. So that means that some of you would come for the exam tomorrow, and a little part of the group won't have the exam tomorrow. And then on Friday, those of you who have the exam tomorrow would join us around 8 in the morning, not at 7, because at 7 I will be having the exam with the others. Okay. So before we finish this lesson, I will let you know exactly what the names are. So you know exactly when and where you have the exam. And also, of course, I will share that program with you on the WhatsApp groups. You got it there, but that's essentially how it works. Okay, so that's just a little reminder for you. Then we have one final assignment for this term, which is this project brief that we discussed yesterday. So just for you guys to have a little bit more of time and just like get the time to do it perfectly, we're gonna extend the time until Friday. So that means that you can present that until Friday midnight, basically. So I can take some time away on Saturday and start checking those things and grading and stuff. Okay, so those are the news. Speaking tests tomorrow for 70% of the class. On Friday, we're gonna continue with the other 30% and the test on the other sections. And also on Friday, we have the as final assignment of the term, which is this part of a project, the project brief. Is that clear, guys?
Yes, sir.
There you go. So, guys, as I was saying, like, and trying to again to summarize, we could say that one of our starting points this semester for covering the different grammar topics and language topics we have talked about was language conventions. And starting from there, as you may remember, we had basically 2 important presentations by the end of the semester. One that was on the nature itself of communication, which was a little bit more directed to speaking. So those were some initial concepts that I wanted you guys to keep in mind as a starting point for this whole discussion, on what the semester would be about. And then the other one that we had on language conventions, which was a starting point for writing basically. And as you'll see, the lessons that have been after that have covered several topics that we already discussed in that presentation, and some of those are phrases, which are perhaps the focus we've had with the previous two lessons. In the lesson 2.1, we focus on noun phrases. And in this one, we are focusing a little bit more on a kind of verb phrases, which are the perfect forms, right? We also said when talking about perfect forms that the fact that they are perfect implies that we are always relating to events. So when we talk about perfect forms, we are connecting two events. It could be two events in the future, one event in the past, and one event in the present, or two events in the past, right? That's essentially what we said regarding the perfect forms. So what we're going to do now, guys, we're going to do a couple of exercises in which we are going to explore that just to close that topic. So in the exercise 7, as you'll see, guys, I would like you to make the groups right away. We need to make groups of 2 or 4. We got just these two options. It has to be groups of 2 people or 4 people. Please don't make groups of 3 because the activities wouldn't work that well, as you'll see. So I would like you to please make groups of 2 people or 4 people. Let me know if there must be an exception and we'll see if we can do something, but it should be 2 or 4. That's the very first thing. So this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna go to the breakout rooms twice. The first time is just for us to discuss the sentences we've got here. Okay, so we've got 5 pairs of sentences, and basically what you gotta say is basically or do is to discuss the difference in meaning between the sentences. I just gave you such a big spoiler a couple of minutes ago, but I know that it might be a little bit challenging, so I'd like you to do that. We're gonna have maximum 5 minutes for that. Then we're gonna come back here to discuss that, and then we're gonna go over the exercise 8. So in the exercise 8, and that's why I said it should be 2 or 4 people. If we have 2 people, one of you is going to be student A and the other one is going to be student B. And if we've got 4, 2 of you student A, 2 of you student B. You will go to pages 127 and 134, and you'll find a description on certain buildings. So you will read that description, the instructions are there. We're gonna take like 5 minutes more or less to analyze that text. And then you're gonna have a talk with the other 2 people or with the other person. And you have to spot the differences between the 2 buildings or constructions you are talking about, but also find 2 similarities. Okay, that's essentially what we are going to do with that exercise. Okay, guys, so we're gonna open the breakout rooms first, 5 minutes, groups of 2 or 4 people to discuss the exercise 7, and then we'll be back here. Okay, so let's try to do this as usual this time. Let me see. So it should be maximum. I'm gonna create 10 rooms, and I will let you guys choose your rooms. So please, let's go. Okay, guys, so let's have a look at this. So we were working on the exercise 7 first, right? So as I said, we have 5 different pairs of sentences. And basically what we had to do was to compare the difference in meaning they have. So as you had the chance to see, in some cases we are comparing perfect forms with other forms which don't have those verb phrases there. In other cases, we are comparing different kinds of perfect forms. So that's essentially what we're gonna do. So let me see. And I like this time you guys to participate freely, basically, just to tell me what you guys found there. So the first pair we've got goes like this. She has worked as an engineer for 3 years, and she worked as an engineer for 3 years. So this is super straightforward. Yes,
so,
Diego.
okay. So the first one, she's worked is present perfect, and the meaning is that she still continue working in that place, and she worked as an engineer is past, and it's the meaning is that she is not working anymore at that place.
It is, thank you very much. It is as simple as that, right? So in both cases, the complements of time are the same, which are 3 years. But in the first case, we could say that this person started working in in 2019, for instance, if we said that this day, right? But in the other, it could be, I don't know, in the year 2000, for example, right? So thank you very much, Diego. It is as simple as that. So in the case of the perfect form, we are talking about an action that started in the past and is still going today. But in the second one, we're talking about an action that started and finished in the past, right? With the simple past form. Thank you very much. Then we have the second pair, which goes, they'll have finished the project by June. That's future perfect. And they'll finish the project in June. So it's a very similar case, but this time in future. So guys, what would be the analysis for these two sentences, for this second pair? Like I said, I gave you such a big spoiler before we started with this, so you should have the answer. What would you say, guys? No ideas?
Check in this part is then the second one, the first one. Okay, second and A. They'll have finished the project by June. We consider is with the future and the present perfect, but I confuse with is if it is passive voice or passive voice or not, or
No.
an active voice, but
No,
I don't know.
In this
Because
case,
bye, but I don't know.
I get it. No, in both cases, we are talking about active voice. And
Okay.
although the fact that they are it's by is being used here is one of the most important things, but you have to be careful. That's why, guys, as we've said, this is why language conventions are important. Because sometimes we tend to and that's one thing, language conventions. And the other thing has to do with form and function. Remember, so I think this is something we've discussed before. So even if we see a word and it looks exactly the same, it could have a different function. And in this case, this preposition by has a different function from that it has when we are talking about passive voice. So this is not passive voice at all, first of all. And second, it has to do with what we said before. We said that when we use the perfect forms, we in the case of future perfect, we talk about how an action is the product of another, right? How an action has an implication on other, and even that could be implicit in some cases. But in this case, the fact that we have by makes a huge difference. So in the first one, we say by June. In the second, we say in June. So how would you analyze that, guys? What is the difference? Just focusing on that part in saying by June or in June. There is a huge difference.
Well, number B, we have a specific date. That is the thing that we know. And they'll have finished the project by June is like not a specific, like could be.
That could be a possibility, a probability.
Not really. I mean, actually, none of those are specific because we're talking about the whole month. So we are not being that specific. And it's not about probability. It's about time. I mean, the timings are different. So if I say, I'll do that in June, or I'll do that by June, those are two completely different timings, you see?
That one is going to be over in June, and the other one is that you are going to start that project in June.
You're super close, but yeah, it's pretty much something like that. If you say by June, it means before, you see, before June. So if you said they have finished the project by June, it means that they will finish before June. But if we say they'll finish the project in June, it means that they will finish in a certain point during that month. So it could be almost in July, for instance, or it could be at the beginning. We don't know. So it's like in any moment during June. But by June means necessarily before, you see? So that's the point. Every time we use by, before a complement of time, it means before. So you can use it even for hours. So I'll go there by 4. I'll go there by 4. It means that before 4, I will go to a place. So every time we say by, it means before, basically. So that's essentially the difference, guys, between these two sentences. In the first one, they'll have finished the project by June. We are saying that this group of people will finish that project before June. And in the second one, they will finish in any moment in June, in some point in some point during that month. That's the difference. Okay. Let's have a look at the pair number 3. So it says the first one, we've been deciding where to build a new tower, and the second, we've decided where to build a new tower. So the difference are also very evident. So who wants to help us with that one, guys?
Can I?
Yeah. Please, Felipe. Thank you.
Okay, we've decided where to build a new tower. Is an action that is still like happening. They are still deciding where to build. And in the other, well, they already decided where to build. So they already have the space where they are going to build the tower.
Thank you very much, Felipe. Yeah, that's true. We could say basically, in other words, that in the first one, we are focusing on the process, you see, on the process of deciding. We've been deciding where to build a new tower. So at the end of the day, it's like you could say the same thing in 2 different ways. But in the first one, we are focusing on the process that we have been talking about, that, you know, the whole process to reach that outcome, which is to know where to build a tower. In the second one, we don't focus on the process, we focus on the outcome. We focus on the objective, let's say, which is the place. You see, so the emphasis is a little bit different. And also, as Felipe said, in the first one, we are talking about a process which is ongoing, but in the second, we are communicating a decision, basically. You see, so those are the 2 differences here. Very, very evident. Then we have the pair number 4, which goes, how long have you been here for? And how long are you here for? So guys, in the case of the number 4, they are very different also. And also, once again, here the differences in terms of time. We're talking about completely different timings.
Teacher, may I?
Yes, please, Daniel, thank you.
I think that with A, how long have you been here, is how long a person, wait, I'll be repeating the idea. Like you're walking inside a restaurant and you're late to a date. Then you ask this question to that person. So maybe you don't feel that much guilty on how much a person has been in that place.
Yes,
for how many time, how much time. Time is an abstract concept, it's much, not many. And how long are you here for? It's kind of a rude sentence. It's like you're saying to a person, how to put this? Like how long is he or she going to stay before they leave? Like you want them to get out as soon as possible, or maybe you just want to plan something before they have to leave.
That's a very interesting point, Daniel, actually. I mean, that is true. That is true. In terms of pragmatics, well, what you have said, I'm sorry. What you have said in terms of pragmatics is absolutely true. So if you say, you can say that, how long have you been here for? As a way to sound, almost as a way to apologize for arriving late to a place. That is so true. And the same thing happens with the second one. If you ask someone that, how long are you here for? It would feel like you're telling that person to leave. That is absolutely true. In terms of pragmatics, so in terms of pragmatics, we're 100% right. But in terms of just grammar and the implications of each one of the sentences, we also need to add that in the first one, how long have you been here for? We are referring to a period of time in the past. So if you are asking a person about the time, this person has waited already in a place. So if I ask you, how long have you been here for? It's because I know that you arrived in here before, I don't know, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, I don't know. I know that, and I'm asking you about that period of time, which is a period of time which already passed in the past. But if we say, how long are you here for? In this case, the connection of these periods of time are not in the past, but present and future, you see? So if you say, how long are you here for? It means that I know you are here, but I want to know until when you'll be here. You see, the moment in which you plan to leave. You see, so grammatically speaking, that's the difference. A refers to a portion of time in the past, and B refer to a portion of time in the future. Yes, Diego?
Teacher, like in Spanish, the first one could be like, ¿cuánto tiempo has estado aquí? And the second one is, ¿cuánto tiempo vas a estar aquí?
Exactly, just like that, exactly. And exactly, and that's what, and that's Daniel's point. If you said that in Spanish, you know how it feels. So, qué pena contigo, ¿cuánto has estado aquí? For instance. Oye, qué pena pregunta, ¿cuánto tiempo vas a estar? Te pongo la escoba detrás de la puerta. You see? So that's the difference. That's the difference between the two. And actually, thank you very much, Daniel, for mentioning that, because as you can see, there are two different levels of analysis, you see? Because if we just focus on grammar, we say, you know, which was what I did, that's the difference. But also it is important to keep in mind those pragmatic implications, you see, because it's not just about knowing how the grammar works, but the kind of implication it may have, you see. Just as for and this is in terms of pragmatics, you know, there are hundreds of examples like that. Just the fact that, for example, we if what happens if we answer with a simple no to a question. Would you like to have some coffee? No. Wow. You see, in terms of pragmatics, that could be rude. Instead of that, you would say, no, thank you, right? That's one thing. And same thing happens even in Spanish when we reflect about that and the difference that we find in Spanish and English, but also in Spanish, in our Spanish, Colombian Spanish, and other varieties of Spanish. Just to show you an example, the fact that we've, at least here in the you know, center zone of the country, we tend to say I'm sorry a lot. You see, we tend to do when we tend to say that a lot. Qué pena, oye, disculpa, qué pena, disculpa, and that's normal for us. But if you go to another Spanish-speaking country, that might sound a little bit like too much. Like, dude, take it easy. Not everything's okay. You see, so that's the difference between this. I mean, this distance between grammar and pragmatics. I really like that example. Thank you, guys. And the last couple of sentences. The first one goes, when the engineer arrived, the decision had been made. And when the engineer arrived, the decision was made. The difference seems to be not that obvious. But let's see, guys. I like to know what you guys have extracted from here.
Teacher, so in the first one is a past perfect, and in that one the decision was taken before the engineer arrived at that place, and in the second one the decision was made at the moment when the engineer arrived at the place. Yeah, or something like that.
I would say that's 95% right. Yes, in the first one, that's exactly the point. If you say when the engineer arrived, the decision had been made. So somebody or a group of people made that decision before the engineer arrived. But in the second one, if we say when the engineer arrived, the decision was made. It's not like it happens exactly at the same time, but the decision was made after he arrived. So perhaps they were waiting for him, and as soon as he or she got there, they made the decision. You see? So in the first one, the decision happened first. In the second, the decision happened after the engineer arrived. You see, that's how it goes. So guys, I believe this exercise is an excellent example on how using different tenses is not just about, you know, talking about when something happens, but also to talk about the relationship between one event and the other, how one thing has an effect on another. That's one thing. And also, as you guys explored it before, the difference in terms of pragmatics, that's something that we also need to be very careful with. Okay, guys, so thank you very much for that. So we're gonna do the very last exercise out of this. This exercise is going to be a very good preparation for you for tomorrow's exam. So how does it work? As you can see, we're gonna go over the exercise number 8. And as I said, I like to work in groups of 4 or in pairs. That's how it works the best. So some of you will decide, some of you will be student A, some others will be student B. And you will have a look at 2 different buildings, basically, and that's how it works. And those buildings, let me just read the names, are the Channel Tunnel, for those of you who are student A, and for student B will be the Warsaw National Stadium. Those are the 2 different places. So the very first thing you gotta do, and if you want, you can go to those pages and check it. So the very first thing you need to do is to read that information, which you will find in those pages, you see? And also you'll see that you have these places and there are 4 different categories, okay? So it's like 4 different characteristics, let's say, or aspects of those buildings that you need to read about, okay? And also, guys, remember just to use this combination that we studied before, which is verb and noun collocations for describing problems and solutions. You see, that's something you should go over. So you should also check these lessons, the previous exercises, to check that relation between problems and solutions. That's also something very important. Once you have read that, just like you went to that page, you'll see that the text is actually very brief. But once you have read that, guys, once you read the text, my suggestion would be to think about a clear introduction. Okay, so you think about a clear introduction, because remember that this time you are presenting to other 2 people or to another person, you'll see. So each one of you are going to share that introduction. So for instance, if you are in a group of 4 and we are 2 students A, you will take turns, and it's like you do this mini presentation individually, no problem. So I present and then the other one present, no problem with that. So first of all, let's start with a very clear introduction about what you're talking about. Then make a very brief summary of those 4 aspects, right? And at the end, and that's it. But that would be basically like that little introduction, and then the summary of each one of the aspects. So it must be very clear that you are covering those 4 different aspects that I said. Once you have organized everything together, as I said, you will just talk to the others. And the last thing you need to do together is that you need to find 2 things these constructions have in common. Okay, so those constructions have something in common, and you will, guys, spot it. So let me just go over just for you to see exactly how those pages look, although, well, you got them there. So this is how it looks. This is what I meant. So it's like 4 different let's say feeds here, and that's exactly how it works. So you see this text has just bullet points, so the format is completely different, and you need to organize this into this speaking in this oral presentation. Okay, so if I'm a student A, a small little introduction, then I would cover each one of the topics: the type of construction, its location, and why it was built, problems experience and its importance, and how people feel about it now. And that's it. And then once you finish presenting, you will spot those two things which they have in common. You see, that is it. This exercise is expected to last around 15 minutes. So that's pretty much what we're gonna dedicate. So at the beginning, you might work a little bit individually, but of course you can help each other build a presentation. You don't have to make any sort of slides or anything. It's just speaking, only speaking, no slides, no visual support for this. And that's it. So guys, I'd like to know if you have any question about this exercise. I think you don't. So
No,
guys,
teacher.
as we are working on the text or in the texts that we have built and I'll be checking, that's something I promise I will work on a little bit more on the second term. So I can check those exercises you have presented beforehand and share that with you. But as you know, I just have the time for the classes and preparing and grading sometimes is kind of tough. And when I want to do it normally, I need to apart some time in Friday nights and weekends. So it's kind of hard sometimes. So I'm really sorry about that, but that's something I will work on. Regarding texts, we have been talking about language conventions and the importance of having full sentences and knowing how to divide them with the punctuation and stuff, which is something we are missing, punctuation, by the way. So how to connect those texts? When speaking, we also need to have models. We also need to have models. So it's not just like you talk, but in this case, you go with the introduction, summary of points 1, 2, 3, 4, something like that. That's something very, very important. Okay, so that's it, guys. We're gonna devote 15 minutes for this. Once we finish, we're gonna come back here. We're gonna exchange some ideas and so on. Then I will give you final instructions on the assignment for the project. And as some of you work on that assignment, I will visit the 2 groups that I'm missing, and that is going to be pretty much it. Okay, guys? So let me just stop sharing here. Okay, guys, welcome back. So we are already here again, I think all of us. So let me just double check something as we wait for others who are still connecting. So guys, as I said, we also need to cover some instructions on the assignment that we have for this week. So you guys are super clear about that. Let me see. So that's exactly what we're gonna do now, guys. So we won't go over the feedback on the exercise that you guys just did. So I basically assumed you guys did it just as the instructions were given, but rather this time I will try to focus more on the instructions for this assignment that we have. So guys, as I said, the first thing I need to keep in mind, the assignment will be for Friday. I said initially was for tomorrow, but I said also today that I would give you a little bit more of time. So this is for Friday midnight. That means 11:59 p.m. on Friday. That's the deadline for you to deliver, to submit this assignment. That's the very first thing. The second, the assignment is composed basically of these 2 pages from the workbook that I share with you, the project workbook. So it's this and this page, the pages 6 and 7. Write a brief and create a project plan. Those 2 things. That's what you're gonna put together and you will deliver on, you will hand in on Friday. That's the very first thing. So guys, what it says here, and this is something I was discussing with the group before, it says that you should focus on 2 things, on capturing your thoughts on why the problem you have chosen is a problem. So you need to demonstrate that that problem is real, you see, because one thing is that sometimes when we start a project, we focus a lot on topics or perhaps on possible solutions, and it is not clear if the problem is a problem. This is something you will be doing if that's your case. If you decide to go for a research project, a thesis, one of the very first things you need to do is to justify the problem. So this is something similar. You need to put your ideas together on why the problem you have chosen is a problem. It's not just a topic, but a problem, which means that you need to show that people have that problem. You see, a problem is a problem if there are people who are, you know, suffering or who are dealing with that. So that's the very first thing. So in this text, the very first thing you need to do is to justify, is to demonstrate that the problem you have chosen is a problem. That is not like you're making it up, that is something you like, but the problem is a problem. And the second thing, guys, is to show why this is also an opportunity for design. That is clear, guys. This is essentially the point where we want to get. Throughout the semester, we've been talking about, you know, how to approach the problem and so on, and how to, you know, see other problems. But I need you to show that, like, the problem is real, and that real problem gives us the opportunity for designing something. So you don't have to come up with the solution right now. You don't need to say, this is the solution, this is the product I'm presenting. No, you just need to explain the problem and how that problem creates the opportunity for us for designing things. That's what you guys are going to be talking about. So you can mention different kinds of options that perhaps you have thought about, different kinds of solutions, but you don't need to explain the solution yet. You don't need to explain the solution yet. Focus on the problem and showing how the problem is real and how that problem gives you the opportunity to design possible solutions. But so far, we know nothing about the solutions. You don't need to have a solution in this moment. That's the very first thing. Yes, Lina, please.
Yes, teacher. The question is that we have to write that part in a example in a PDF in a Word, or we have to upload in the same format.
Thank you, Lina, for the question. I would prefer if you guys do it with this format, because this format already gives us the layout that we need, you see. So I've shared with you guys before a software that you can use for that. That's one way you can do it. Or other way you can do it, you can edit the PDF in any way, and you can just copy paste the texts here. So I would like you to do it with this format. So the very first thing you can do, in case you perhaps are not very certain about that, let me just show that to you. I don't know if you can see my Chrome in this moment.
No, teacher, in this moment we are seeing just the document.
Yes, because the thing is that sometimes if I don't want to show something, it shows it. And sometimes when I do, it doesn't. So you just Google this split PDF, and you open the first option, which is called I love PDF. You can upload the format here. So for instance, let's say I do that. I'll do it for you, if you will. So let me just see. So we upload the format here, for example, which is this that you have, and the next step is to go to the page, the pages that you need. So let me just share my whole screen so you see the whole thing. So let me see. So then we know that as it says here, it's like pages 6 and 7. So I would go back there and just choose that page 6 and 7, right? And then you click on split PDF, right? And then you download that, and then you save it on your desktop. Once you have that, you just have the 2 pages you need, you see? So that would be the PDF you need. And if you have followed my instructions and downloaded this software that I've shared with you several times, Foxit, I would just open it there and I can edit it. You see, it is as simple as that. So for example, here, if I need to write something, I just click on this option, which is Máquina Escribir, as it's called, and then you can start writing. So we believe that blah, 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 right? We believe, you see? And that's it. And then you save it, and that's it. And that's it. You don't need anything else. That's all you need. And you can save that PDF, and I can make comments over the PDF, and that would be it. So you can put it like that. And here, using the same tool, you put the names of the people in the group. You see, that is as simple as that. So you don't need to create new layouts or anything. You can do everything right here. You see, so that would be my suggestion, guys, just to use that. So use that format and use that software ideally, so you can edit. Actually, I will share this format right now with you on the WhatsApp group, so you got it already there. But that's it. So I think I answered your question, right, Lina?
Yes, teacher. Thank you.
Yeah, so it's right there. Okay, guys, so as I was saying, just focus on that. You don't need to say, this is my solution, because that's something we're gonna do on a later stage. In this stage, what we are doing is just trying to, what they call empathizing with the problem. That's essentially what we are doing. Also, at the same time, guys, as we see here on the format, we are required to sketch like the brief and also some timeline, right, at the timeline. And I say that timeline should be the timeline just of this 6 months. And you got a very small piece of homework for today. And it was to answer a question, guys. Do you remember that question? What was the question, guys, that I asked you to answer for this morning?
About the iteration?
Yes. But exactly what was the question?
What's an iterative process?
Process. And have you put together any answer for that? How would you answer that question? Anybody?
I found that an iterative process is the practice of building, refining, and improving a project, product, or initiative.
Refining. I like that word. I like that word. So guys, basically, when we talk about an iterative process, we're talking a process which follows cycles for improvement. So that's something that happens, for instance, with the software development. When you with applications, you say that every time they publish new updates, right? So it's not like they create an application, they publish the version of the application, and that's it. And then it's like we're finished. Like how the way we do it, for instance, with certain assignments for the university. We do it, we finish it, that's it. No, they do it, they work on making it better, they publish a second version, third version, fourth version. So every single version is an improved version of the previous one. So that's an iterative process. The examples of the software development and for instance, the development of applications, the development of iOS, development of Android goes like that. Every single version is an improvement on the previous one. And to do that, they need to follow an iterative process. And every cycle is what we call an iteration. Iteration, just like that. Look, every cycle, every version, we could call it iteration. So we are working on this semester on just one iteration of that process, of the whole project. So that's why the timeline goes just with 6 months. So even if you have thought about lots of solutions and characteristics for your products, we are going to focus on the first version. And you know what they say, less is more sometimes. So try to focus on less things. But in this moment, we just want to understand the problem. That is it. We are not thinking about solutions yet. So that will be it, guys. This is exactly what you guys are going to present on Friday. And then on the second term, we're going to accelerate and we will be working on the rest of the stages, let's say. I will also show you something that perhaps I've shared with you before. This is just for you guys to keep in mind and to see how this works. We know that we are using a methodology for this process, right? And you guys remember that methodology, right? Do you guys remember which methodology?
Sorry, teacher, I can't listen well. Can you repeat it?
Yes, I was saying that we are using a methodology for doing this process, the whole project. Don't you guys remember?
No, teacher.
Oh, you guys don't remember. Oh my God, I've repeated this so many times. I cannot believe it. Guys, what is the methodology that we are using for designing our projects, our ideas?
Mural?
Oh my God, I cannot believe it. And at least
Do
Diego
you
is saying
make plan,
something.
maybe?
At least Diego is saying something. The rest of you are just like, what are you talking about, right? Oh my God.
Methodology is the mirror, the mural, the mural
No.
that we created.
I should grade your exam over 3 just for that reason. For God's sake. This is the methodology we are using. It's freaking design thinking. Design thinking. Remember, design thinking. Design thinking. And guys, design thinking, these are the steps that we will follow this semester, you see, for your ideas. And we are here on the first stage. We are from the first stage starting the second one. So that's why you don't need to create solutions. You say it's because this reason. Actually, I will save that image and share it with you on the WhatsApp group. We are on this first step in which we want to learn about the audience. We want to learn more about the people who have these problems. That's why I said you guys focus on the problems, not on solutions, because as you can see, in the third stage, we're gonna brainstorm and create solutions. And in the prototype, we are going to build the solutions themselves and then test them. This is something which is going to happen in the second and third term, you see? So that on the other hand, guys, it would be really cool if you guys, you know, pay attention. And also, apart from that, read a little bit more about that. This is something I have suggested before. I'm 100% sure. But just in case, I will leave it here. Design thinking. This is the methodology we are using. So if you want to anticipate the steps that we are going to follow, just read a little bit about it. That's it. Okay, that's it. So guys, have you got any question about that?
No, teacher.
That's it. So guys, I will open the breakout rooms now, but the breakout rooms of the groups of the project. So I will visit the 2 groups that I'm missing. And you can take this time for you to put things together. And then just in like 15 minutes more or less, we'll be back here. So we call the attendance. Okay, that is it. So as I said, I know we have 10 groups. Let me just double check. Yes, we have 10 groups. So I will recreate them. So you can work on what I've said before. Those of you who haven't installed any sort of software for editing PDFs, well, that's something you should be talking about as well, because you need to
Sure, I have
sort
a
out how
question.
you'll do it. Yep.
Just one person per group is going to upload the PDF?
Yes,
Okay.
sir. Yes, there you go. Okay, guys, so let's go to your rooms and I'll start visiting the groups. Just to remember, guys, I think I'm missing groups 4 and 9. That's what I've got in my head. So group number 4, which is Camila Bulla, Camila Navarro, and Melissa Goyes. I'm missing that group, right? Right?
No, teacher.
I don't remember. Oh, so I remember it's group number 9, for example. I think it's 9 and 10 then.
Yeah, teacher.
Angie Rodriguez, Nelarios, Erika, I know that I'm missing that one. But what about number 10, Angie Valero and Nicole Martinez? Am I also missing that one?
Yes, teacher. Yes.
Okay, so I'll go to 9 and 10. That's it. So, oh, shoot. Let's go. Let me just record it. So for the exam, guys, from Abril to Navarro, that's going to be tomorrow, 7 a.m. 7 a.m. sharp, we're going to start. Abril to Navarro. And then from Ojeda to Valojes, that's going to be Friday, 7 a.m. Okay? That's it, guys. Okay, guys. So I'll see you tomorrow in the exam. Thank you very much.
Okay, teacher. Thank you.
Hi, teacher.